Yo, what's up guys? So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you all of the best settings for Season 15 of Apex Legends. I've done plenty of these in the past, but I like to do a new one every season just to help out the new players as much as I can. And in today's video, I'm going to be helping you guys boost your FPS, reduce visual clutter to make it easier to aim, improve your visibility to make it easier to see enemies, and just overall give you that competitive advantage. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you stick around for the whole video. I'm going to be going through each individual setting and giving you guys all of the best ones. But real quick, before we start the video, if this does help you, please remember to leave a like and a comment, as that goes a long way. But that's enough of that. Now we can get right into the video. So we're going to head over into our settings tab, and the first thing that we're going to talk about is the gameplay tab. I'm just going to be going through each thing one by one, but I will have chapters below if you want to skip to certain parts. For interact prompt style, you want to keep that on compact unless you're new to the game and you're still kind of learning. For button hints, you want to keep those off unless, like before, you're new to the game and you're still learning. Crosshair damage feedback, turn this to off. Having it set to on with just an X isn't too bad, but turning this off will help reduce visual clutter a little bit. You don't need crosshairs in this game because you have damage numbers and distinct sounds whenever you hit an enemy, so it's just kind of redundant. For damage numbers, you want to keep these on stacking. This is going to give you all the information you need to see how much damage you're doing, and it's not going to take up a big portion of your screen. Ping opacity, I like to keep mine on default. Faded is just a little bit too transparent for me, and I find myself losing the ping a lot of time. Obituaries, keep these on. You want to have the kill feed on at all times. There's absolutely no reason to keep this off. Minimap rotation, keep that on. It's just going to make it easier to read your minimap. Weapon auto cycle on empty, keep this off. I had this on a while ago as I was testing it out, and I found myself double swapping when I'd run out of ammo, and it would throw me off a lot. Auto sprint, you want to keep this off. Unless you're a controller, then you probably want to turn it on just to save your thumb a little bit. But on mouse and key, there is a delay with auto sprint when you're using shotguns and just weapons in general when you come out of that sprint animation. I know there are ways to work around it, like inspect weapon, but I still feel like having auto sprint off and having full control over your movement is still the best way to go. Double tap sprint, this one's personal preference. I just like to single tap, so I keep this set to off. For jetpack control, I keep it on hold as I feel that's the easiest way to control Valkyrie's jetpacks for me. Incoming damage feedback, keep this on 2D or 3D. I wouldn't recommend 2D, 3D both. Taking damage closes death box or crafting menu. You want to have this off at all times. Pop up, I just turn mine off. Streamer mode, I have this off, and I've talked about this before. If you guys are playing ranked and you see people you know in game and it's making you nervous, you could turn this on just to hide those names in the kill feed. Anonymous mode, this one's just personal preference. If you want to hide your name, turn this to enabled. Usage is sharing, I just set this to disabled. Performance display, you want to have this on at all times. It's going to show you your ping, your FPS, your packet loss. Club invites, I'm already in a club, so I have this set to disabled. Communication filter, I just have it set to everybody, but if you're tired of randoms talking shit to you in game, you could turn it to friends only, or you could even just turn it off completely. Reticle color comes down to mostly personal preference, but I'll just share with you a few of my favorite ones. Now this bright green is one that I've been using the most recently. I also really enjoy this cyan blue color. Yellow is also really good. I use this one a lot, and even just the normal red one is really good as well. So that's it for the reticle colors. As far as laser sight goes, I just like to keep it to the same color as whatever my reticle is. I've tried around with different color laser sights and it doesn't really affect the game too much. For colorblind mode, I like to keep this on Tritonopia. It's really the only colorblind mode that I'd recommend. I like how it brightens up certain elements of the game and brightens up the UI, but like I said, you don't need this. It's just personal preference. Subtitles, have this turned off unless you have trouble hearing what they're saying in game, then you could turn it on. Subtitle size, normal. Enable accessible chat features, I just have this set to off. Convert incoming voice to chat text, I have this set to off. And play incoming text chat to speech, I have that set to off as well. Next, we'll head over into the mouse and keyboard tab, and the sensitivity that I'm playing on now is 0.8 at 1600 DPI, which comes out to about roughly 32 centimeters per 360. And I prefer playing on 1600 DPI just because it has slightly less input delay and it's a little bit smoother. As far as sensitivities that I'd recommend for 1600 DPI, it'd be anywhere from 0.5 to 1, which in 800 DPI terms would be 1.0 to 2.0, but that is just a very general recommendation. And with enough practice, you can make pretty much any sensitivity work for you. As far as my ADS sensitivities go, I do prefer to play on per optic ADS sensitivities just because I feel like the default 1.0 is really slow. So for my 1x, I play on 1.05, 2x is going to be 1.3, 3x 1.4, 4x 1.5, 6x 1.6, 8x 1.7, and 10x 1.8. That might be too fast for some people, but I recommend you guys trying this out for yourself, finding what works for you. And I noticed my aim improved a ton once I dialed in my sensitivities right. Mouse acceleration, you want to have this off at all times. Mouse invert, turn that off. Lighting effects, make sure that's off too, unless you want your keyboard to be lighting up every time you click or move, assuming that you have the proper software and peripherals to do that. Now I'll run through my keybinds for you real quick. Once again, personal preference mostly for keybinds, except for a few which I'll talk about real quick. On move forward, you want to have this bound at one of your mouse wheels so that you can tap strafe. For jump, you want to set it to either scroll wheel up or down, whatever you didn't use for your move forward key, and that's going to allow you to b-hop. It's going to make wall jumping so much easier, and just movement tech in general is going to be so much easier with this. And for crouch, I have it on left control, and I also have it on V for super glides just because it's really easy to hit V and space at the same time for me. For weapons and abilities, this is going to be personal preference as well. The only one that really matters in here is your inspect weapon, so make sure you have that balance so you can flip your kunai or whatever heirloom that you have over and over again just to show people how cool you are. I also do want to talk about heal keybinds real quick. I think these are really good, and if you don't have them, you should probably try them out and try to get used to them. of them, it's going to save you those extra milliseconds in a fight by not having to scroll through your heal wheel, and it'll make you so much more efficient as a player. So these are just what I use and what I've been trying to get used to. As far as communication goes, this one's personal preference, but you do need a ping bind. Mine is set to my thumb mouse button. It's really important that you guys do have a ping keybind. I know that's probably common sense by now. Push to talk, mine is on my DPI button on my mouse. I use the software to change that. So just find something that's comfortable for you that you can hit while you're moving and playing in game. So that's it for the mouse and keyboard tab. Now we'll head over to the controller tab, which I'm not going to cover because I don't know anything about controller. I've only played it a few times. So we're going to skip that and we're going to go over to the video tab, which I know is probably the reason that most of you guys are here. For display mode, you want to keep this on full screen at all times. There's no reason to be playing anything else, so they're just going to lower your FPS and give you unnecessary input delay. Aspect ratio, 16:9 native is what most of you guys are going to be playing on. 16:10 is also really good if you're looking to play stretched res. 4:3 is also really good. And for resolutions, a good 4:3 resolution would be 1440 by 1080, and good 16:10 resolutions are 1680 by 1050 and also 1728 by 1080. Another good res that isn't included in here, but I'm going to be covering all of these in a future video on an updated stretch res guide. 1600 by 1080 is also a very good stretch resolution in this game, but like I said, that will be saved for a future video soon. Native in this game isn't too bad. I've tried a bunch of different resolutions and I play pretty much the same on both of them. Brightness, I'd recommend turning this up just a little bit, at least around 60. I used to play on 70, 80, but that's really harsh and it can be very bright for some people. So I think 60 is a good middle ground. Bumping that brightness up will help bring out the darkness in those shadows a little bit and make it a little bit easier to see. Field of view, I'd recommend playing on 110. You can also play on 120, but you can't do that in just the game settings. You have to go into the files to do that. I've covered that in a past video and I'll probably be updating it here soon again, but I'll leave that linked below. There really isn't much reason to play on anything other than 110 in this game. It makes aiming easier, you get more visual info, it makes your movement feel better. Just so many positives to it. The absolute lowest that I'd recommend you guys going is about 100 to 104. I wouldn't go any lower than that personally. FOV ability scaling, you want this disabled always. This is going to keep your FOV consistent when you use abilities like Octane Stim or Bloodhound ult, and it's not going to change your ADS sensitivities, which is linked to FOV in this game, by the way, if you didn't know. Sprint view shake, minimal. VSync, you want this disabled at all times. VSync will add a ton of input delay. For NVIDIA reflex, you want this at least enabled. If you have a good GPU, you could use enabled plus boost, but if you find you're stuttering a little bit, drop that down to enabled and you should be fine. Adaptive resolution, turn this off. Anti-aliasing, I play with it off. I don't like how muddy it makes the game look, but if you guys do want to turn it on, feel free to. It doesn't mess with your FPS too much. Texture streaming budget, you can turn this up a little bit as well. I wouldn't go past high though, just because you really don't get much from it. I feel like the game looks pretty similar on very low textures and high textures, but turning this up at least a little bit will help your game look better, and it's not going to affect your FPS too much. Texture filtering, you can also turn this up a little bit. Your FPS won't take too much of a hit, and it'll make your game look a little bit better. However, I just play on bilinear because it doesn't really bother me. Ambient occlusion quality, set this to disabled. Sun shadow coverage, low. Sun shadow detail, low. Spot shadow detail, disabled. Volumetric lighting, disabled. Dynamic spot shadows, disabled. Model detail, low. Effects detail, low. Impact marks, disabled. And ragdolls, low. And I'll show you guys just a couple more video settings that we can change in the config file after I go over the audio tab real quick. So let's head over to audio now. For master volume, I usually play on it with 100, but for video purposes, I just have it set to 10. For voice chat input device, make sure this is set to whatever mic you want to use for your talking in game. Voice chat record mode, I recommend having this to push to talk. Having open mic can be kind of annoying for your teammates. They can hear all the noise going on in the background, but you can fix that a little bit with open mic record threshold, but I don't know who really wants to use open mic in this day and age. Just set it to push to talk and you can put it on a good keybind and you'll be good to go. For incoming voice chat volume, I have it turned down a little bit to 60, just so my teammates aren't screaming in my ear when they talk. Sound effects volume, you want to keep this on 100 at all times. You don't really want to be messing with this. You just want to mess with the other things and then mess with your master volume. Dialogue volume, I have it set to 70. You want to turn this down just a little bit, but not too low so that you can hear the voice lines in game for when you're getting third partied, when there's ultimates, just so many different things that you want to be hearing. There's so many character interactions in game that you want to be hearing. It's going to give you a lot of good info. For music volume, I have it set to 0 just because I don't really care about the music in this game. I'd rather hear footsteps and everything else around me when I'm landing, and having that music set up too high is going to drown that out. Bobby music volume, you can turn that up a little bit. Like I said, I don't really care about the music in this game anyways, so I just keep it set to 0. Sound and background, this one doesn't really matter. I just have it set to off. So that's it for the in-game settings. Now real quick, I'll just show you guys some things you can do in the video config file to further boost your FPS and increase visibility. So it's really easy for us to find our game files, and we're just going to go to our Windows search bar and type in saved games, and then we're just going to click this folder right here. Then we're going to go into Respawn, Apex, Local, and this one right here, videoconfig.exe. txt is what we're going to be messing with. So we're just going to double click and go into that. And what I did was basically put all of my video settings to the absolute lowest they could go for the most part, besides the texture streaming budget, which is going to be this right here, setting stream memory. Now, very low textures are going to be 160,000 and high textures is going to be 1,000,000. So you can adjust accordingly and choose whatever you want in between those two values. So I'd recommend you guys going through and copying these settings right here if you want the most FPS that you can get and also the best visibility that you can get. But the two most important things that we need to make sure we change are setting CSM enabled and setting CSM coverage. Make sure both of these are set to 0. This is going to disable most of the shadow settings in game, and it is going to boost your FPS a ton, and it also just makes things so much easier to see in game anyways. Another one that you guys need to disable is the new shadow settings. Make sure that is set to 0. I don't really know exactly what this does yet because it's only been in the game for a couple of seasons, but I just set it to 0 anyways just so I don't have to worry about it. Then once we change everything, we're just going to hit file, save, and if you guys don't want any of your settings to change, you're going to right click, go to properties, make sure read only is checked, then hit apply and okay. However, if you guys do want to change any of your video settings, you will have to come back in here and uncheck read only, change whatever settings you need to, and then once you're done, you can hit read only again. Next thing we're going to talk about is some auto exec settings to further boost your FPS a little bit. I'll leave mine linked down in the description below. It is really overkill and I'm still working on refining it a little bit, but the first thing we need to do is find out where Apex Legends is installed, and it's really easy to find out where Apex is installed. For most people, it's just going to be in your C drive. So majority of you, you'll just want to go to your C drive, program file is x86, then go down to origin games, and it should be in here. However, I have mine installed somewhere else, but the folders will look exactly identical. So I have a dedicated game drive, so it'll be in here. So it'll be in origin games, Apex, and in the CFG folder. Now I already have an auto exec file. A lot of you won't yet, but it's really simple to make one. So we're just going to right click and hit new text document, and we're going to name it auto exec. And then right here where it says txt, we're going to change that to CFG. And then you'll get a warning. You just want to click yes. Now I already have an auto exec, so I got this pop up, but you guys won't. And that's all that you have to do to make your auto exec. Now you guys can go to the link that I have below and copy all of those auto exec options and then paste them into your file. And then it should look a little something like this. So once we've done all of that, we're going to go back into our origin or Steam launcher, whatever you're using. We're going to right click, go to game properties, and then advanced launch options. And you need to have this right here, plus exec auto exec. And that'll make sure that every time the game starts up, it's running all those auto exec scripts. And once you put that in, you just hit save and then you're good to go. So real quick, I just want to go through and show you guys my NVIDIA settings because I have a lot of people who ask about those. The first one that I want to talk to you guys about are my color settings. I used to play a 90 to 100% digital vibrance, which is crazy to think about. That's just so colorful. But recently I found that 70 is a pretty good middle ground for me. It brightens the game up, makes it really colorful, but those colors aren't oversaturated and clipping, which makes it even harder to see. So turn that up to around 70 and mess with it a little bit and see what you like. Now I'll just go through and show you guys my 3D settings. So these don't have too much of an impact on FPS, but I get a lot of people asking me about it, so I figured I'd finally share them with you guys. The only ones that really might make any sort of difference is power management mode. Make sure that's on prefer maximum performance. Preferred fresh rate, make sure that's on highest available. Texture filtering quality, I have it set to high performance, which probably doesn't really do anything. The effect that NVIDIA control panel settings have on your FPS is pretty minimal. That could just be because I have a higher end card and other people might notice better performance than I would with these. But if you guys want to optimize it, these are the best settings that you can use. But yeah, that is going to cover it for today's video. I really hope that this helps you guys out. Like I said before, if it does, please do remember to leave a like and a comment. It helps out the video a ton with the algorithm. And I do have a lot more guides and optimization videos planned here in the future. I'm going to be doing an updated stretched res guide, an updated visibility guide, a full FPS boost guide, and just so much more. And you guys aren't going to want to miss that. So make sure you're subscribed and those notifications are turned on. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer as much of them as I can. Links to all my social medias are also down below if you guys want to get in contact with me there. But that's going to be it from me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.